wound up to be a malefactor.
Yeah. Well, Harvey, for example, I used to work at the Wall Street Journal, and we had very strict restrictions about what we could buy, how long we had to hold stocks if we bought it, about how we had to disclose it and that sort of. It doesn't seem that those, at least that those disclosure policies apply to FINRA, at least in the case of finding out whether they invested with Madoff.
Well, I don't, there has been a fair amount of, shall we say, opacity with respect to what the investment activities are and the like. In a real sense, I think that's probably ill-advised for an enterprise that has regulatory responsibilities. But so putting that to one side, I mean, I do think that people are entitled to know where their money is coming from, where their money is going, what it is being spent on, and the like. The fact of the matter is that the SEC does oversee all these operations. It does look over all of these things. And FINRA has been under the microscope at the SEC for many, many years, long before Mary Schapiro got to the SEC.
By the way, I want to bring in some other parties, but I want to go back first to Councilor Greenfield. Richard Greenfield, how did you get information suggesting that indeed FINRA was investing with Madoff?
Well, we got the information, number one, in two different ways. Number one, it has been rumored through many people on Wall Street that there was an investment either through a feeder fund or some other means. Secondly, we also got information from somebody well-placed within the organization that told us in no uncertain terms that there was an investment with Madoff.
Okay, all right. So I think it's fair to say that FINRA owes the public some answers here. So joining us now are some people who are demanding answers. Larry Doyle is a Wall Street veteran, 23 years, who currently operates his own website, Sense and Sense, Sense with an S and Sense with a C, which is geared to help people navigate the economic landscape. And Ronnie Sue and Ambrosino, of course, very good friends of Scoreboard. They are Madoff victims who are mobilizing a campaign for greater transparency. Thanks to all of you for coming in. Larry, first to you, what do you think about Harvey's description of the situation?
Well, I would say two things in regards to the former chairman's statement. First and foremost, Madoff did not become a registered investment advisor until 2006. FINRA obviously wasn't formed until 2007. FINRA's parent, that being, FINRA was formed from the regulatory arms of the New York Stock Exchange and the NASD. Right. The fact is, the NASD did have oversight of Madoff, and so there is an obligation to look into the NASD's activities, because at that point, it was just a broker-dealer.
All right, but have you formulated your own opinion as to whether there was a conflict of interest here?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. The fact of the matter is, FINRA is a big money organization. We know that they invested in hedge funds, fund of funds, private equity, and they also had a significant investment in auction-rate securities, which is a sector of the market that has been designated as a fraud by federal judges. And the fact of the matter is, we know and have learned from FINRA that FINRA exited their auction-rate securities position, $647 million worth, in mid-2007, as the market was failing and when they were supposed to be protecting investors.
All right, so let me ask Harvey to chime in on this. Harvey, don't you see a conflict of interest there?
Well, I think that if FINRA had money invested with Madoff, and picking up on the point that FINRA had no jurisdiction over Madoff's investment activities, it nonetheless did have jurisdiction over his brokerage activities, which have not directly been implicated in the scam. I think there's
because they never made a trade, apparently.
Right. I think there's a potential appearance of conflict in a generic sense as to why FINRA, a regulator, would invest in an entity over which it had some regulatory jurisdiction. But we don't know that it invested in Madoff's thing, and they certainly had no jurisdiction over his investment activities.
All right. Well, and let me go to Dominic and Ronnie Sue here, because FINRA's mission statement, Ronnie Sue, is that its job is to protect people like you, the investors, who obviously were not protected from what Madoff was doing. Now, there are a lot of people, as we said before, who were fooled by Madoff. Everybody just assumed he was making trades, which turned out to be not true. He never made a single trade that we can tell. But the fact is that FINRA let you down because, according to its mission statement, you were the folks it was supposed to be protecting.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think Larry brought it up. There is a window of opportunity where FINRA had responsibility to oversee Madoff. That being said, as a victim, I see a pattern here. I see FINRA dropping the ball. I see FINRA possibly having a conflict of interest, and we won't know that until they divulge their investments. I see the SEC getting red flags sent to them from internal counsel, and from Harry Markopoulos and others dropping the ball. And now I see SIPC dropping the ball as far as giving the investors their protection. This is very scary to me, not only for Madoff investors, but for every investor in the United States. Where is this protection that we promised?
That's a great point, Ronnie Sue. And Larry, it goes to the point that a lot of people are looking from the outside at what goes on inside of Wall Street and Washington. It's that Wall Street-Washington nexus, and they see all these folks kind of related with each other. The SEC related with FINRA, related with NASD. Now they're you know, you look at Mary Schapiro's career, and you see that, and they can miss things because they're only talking to each other.
I think the term there is incestuous. Yeah. And so the fact of the matter is, you know, Washington has got an opportunity through this financial regulatory reform to bring total transparency.
Well, how would you do that? I mean, just open the records of FINRA?
Open the books. I mean, what individual in America right now wouldn't make, you know, doesn't it make sense for FINRA to be forced to open their books and records? Full and total transparency. The markets demand it. The economy demands it. Ronnie Sue and Dominic demand it. You know, for market confidence.
And Harvey, if we demanded of banks, why not FINRA, or for that matter, why not the Fed? I mean, we have a lot of people in Congress saying everybody needs to open the books. Everybody needs to be transparent.
Well, I think there's no question that we need far more transparency throughout the regulatory environment, both for those regulated and those doing the regulation. That, I think, is a very clear proposition, and one that I'm hopeful will be addressed in whatever new legislation comes about.
So we have to leave, but Harvey, does that mean you're in favor of FINRA opening the books so we can find out whether they invested with Madoff?
I'm in favor of there being far more transparency, permitting privacy concerns to allow certain information to be withheld as long as somebody is overseeing what they're doing.
Last word from Harvey Pitt. Richard Greenfield, thank you. Larry Doyle, and as always, Dominic and Ronnie Sue, thank you very much. We have literally run out of time. I'm sorry we have no more time. We want your take on all this. Mary Schapiro, is she a buy, sell, or hold? Text us your take to 369-249. Your answer's coming up. Coming up on deck, was this play out of bounds? Wait till you hear about the football.
Some things in life